Okay, what's going on, everybody? It is 3 p.m. on Wednesday, April 22nd. Hopefully, everyone's doing well today. 3 p.m. in Chicago Central, I think, Standard Time. I don't know what the difference is, frankly, between Standard Time and just regular time. So when people say like Pacific Standard Time or Eastern Standard Time, I don't know what the standard means. But then again, I don't really know very much about time zones or geography. There's so much that I don't know. But anyway, I am glad that everyone is here today and coming to hang out. Good to see everybody. Hope you guys are all doing well. Today is a relatively kind of grayish day, although it's bright out. Definitely getting a lot more sunlight these days. The days are getting longer. The mornings are starting earlier, so that's been very interesting to see. Rohan Crane says, "Go Pack, go!" It looks like we got some cheeseheads up in here, and that's okay. Freddie Pulido says, hey, "Hi, he's Fred from Columbia." Well, good to see you. Hi, how are you? But it's definitely a chilly day here in Chicago. It doesn't really feel like late April, or maybe it does. The Midwest is so weird when it comes to weather. Luis Becerra says, "Nice video on the Polar Watch." Thanks so much. Watch videos always kind of like, I love doing them, but I do them somewhat reluctantly at times because there's always so many grumpy people. And it reminds me of a conversation one of my, I guess, internet friends, the Everyday Dad, has. And he's a guy that he mainly does camera reviews, or he did mainly do camera reviews for videos that are put onto YouTube and for live streaming and kind of very basic things like that. And he generally found that you have to do like, not disclaimers, but kind of like telling people that, like, I'm a regular person. This channel is called The Everyday Dad, and he is not a professional photographer. He's not a pixel peeper, and he cares about what he cares about, and the review is from that perspective. And he's been kind of, I don't know how serious he's been, but he's been having like a hard time thinking about, like, does he continue making camera reviews because everyone in the comments is just so grumpy about it, and so particular and so entrenched in their camps. And like GPS watches are kind of the same way, where it's like when you make one, everyone's just waiting for something that I say to be wrong and to like prove me wrong. Everyone wants to like hop on, pile on, and talk about how dumb that guy on YouTube is. And so like that's why I have a little bit of a hard time with watch reviews, because it tends to bring out like that kind of commenter out of the woodwork. And that's okay, because they're right. I'm probably wrong about something. I'm probably getting something really wrong, but I guess I wish they were nicer about it. Oscar Close here from New Zealand. He says, "Funny enough, the sky is pretty gray over there too." I think a lot of the U.S. is gray for today. I think some weather changes are coming in. Basie Bass says, "Greetings from Philly. Hey, how's it going?" Tough Duck 414 said, "Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you too." Jefferson Size says, "Stash is still looking great." Thanks. I'm getting a lot more like negative comments about it lately. Not from like channel regulars, but from like new people, which tells me that, I think I'm in the right direction. Wang Shui says it's 4 a.m. in Singapore and he's going for his run soon, warming up. All right. I mean, that sounds early, but then again, like that's kind of when I go for my runs too. So I'm glad that you're able to go for a run in Singapore. Yeah, that's kind of like my schedule. Luis Becerra asks, "Have I ever heard of Amazfit Bip watch? It's super cheap, but I really looking for a Garmin or a Polar watch." I've heard of Amazfit. I've looked at those. I think DesFit has done a lot of reviews on the Amazfit line of watches. I just never got around to it. Watches take a lot more time to review as well, because it's not like, yep, I ran in it and I have a pretty good feel for it, and GPS works. It's something that takes a little bit more time, especially if I'm not familiar with like the brand, because then every brand, it's kind of like you're reviewing not only like, it's like reviewing a laptop and an OS at the same time, and so it just takes a little bit longer. So Amazfit and Coros are two brands that I'd also like to take some more looks at, but just takes time. Super Schmaltz says, "Hi, got in a good body freeway workout with much needed stretching. Awesome. Do I know any good foot stretches?" I really don't know too many foot stretches. I'm not too familiar in that regard. The only one that only like foot exercise that I really know as far as stretching for the foot is like when you put like a t-shirt or a bed sheet or something or a t-shirt, it is a t-shirt or a towel on the ground, and then use your foot to like bring it in to yourself. It's more of an exercise than a stretch, I guess. That helps with like the arches. And so that's like the only thing I've really seen people do for feet. Other than that, I'm not that familiar. Eric Bolvin says, hey, hello, waiting for his shoe delivery, Asics Kino 26, GT 2000 version 8, Kinvara 11, and Brooks Adrenaline 20. Okay, gonna try. I was like, wow, that's a lot of shoes to buy at once. Is he gonna try them out and return 3 of them? Which one do you think I'll be keeping? I don't know, because you've got the GT 2008 in there. I don't know if that means that you need a stability shoe. If you need a stability shoe, then you'll probably, how many is there? 1, 2, 3, 4. If you need a stability shoe, you'll probably keep the GT 2008. That was actually a pretty good stability shoe. I like that one. Or the Adrenaline 20. Probably one of the two. You probably won't be keeping of those. If I'm trying to like kind of do like a guess your weight kind of thing based on those that you've listed, you probably won't be keeping the Kinvara 11. Unless you have a lot of other shoes that are like those other stability shoes and need something that's not as stable. Jefferson Sai says, question about staying motivated during quarantine. If you're not motivated, don't worry. There's no race coming up, so don't worry about it. Relax. There's plenty of time to, if you need to, get out of shape and come back to it later. You probably won't get to that point, so I wouldn't worry about it. But if your body is telling you to relax, if your mind is mentally is telling you to relax, then relax, take some time off, come back to it when you're ready. Or if you're gonna try to work through it, try to find a new route, find a new way, maybe run your regular route the other way, or run a different time of day. See how that works out for you. Just sometimes like that change of scenery in that regards can be really helpful. Other people have been turning to like the virtual races and things like that as ways to kind of keep themselves motivated, give themselves a plan. I can understand if people aren't used to like running in the absence of races, to like, well, everything that people were doing was probably like geared in like 12-week blocks or 14-week blocks. And if you don't have any more of those training plans to build up for, then what do you do? So I think the virtual races can be helpful in that regard. Preston Rose says, what's my mile PR? I don't know. I haven't done like personally, I don't think it's a PR unless there's a chip time involved, and I haven't done, or like an official time. I haven't done like an official mile race since about 1997. So I don't know what my like official mile PR would be. I think I'd probably be able to run it somewhere in the 550 category, something like that. Natalie Townsend from SoCal, good to see you again, Natalie. I remember you from a couple of other, at least one other live stream, so good to see you again. Dawid De Ritter says, need some clarification. Yesterday said the Clifton 6 is a good long distance shoe, but in your 100-mile review, the shoe said it's an everyday trainer. Does your opinion change? No, I don't think that it changed. I don't think those things are necessarily inconsistent. And so I think a daily trainer needs to be able to do a lot of everything well. And the Clifton 6 also has a lot of EVA foam in it. And it can hold up to, I think, some longer distances as well. But in terms of what it's supposed to do as like where it fits in the lineup, what its intended use case is, I think it's intended as the daily trainer. So like the long distance shoe, like the Super Max cushion shoe in the lineup is the Bondi. And so that's even more stack height, even more EVA foam, softer cushion. So like that's like the longest distance shoe that Hoka makes. As far as road shoes, it's the most cushion that they have. I believe that 910 or the 109 may have, it probably has a lot more EVA in it than that. But as far as the road shoes goes, the Bondi has the most, and then right underneath that is the Daily Trainer, which is the Clifton. Ezekiel Robles says, hello from St. Louis. Hey, what's going on? Cody says, I have the Vantage V and I still don't know everything it can do. Yeah, I feel that way about a lot of watches as well. Like one of the things that I haven't really explored too much with Polar is the Recovery Pro. So I do the Training Pro. I think there's a couple of there's lots of little modules that Polar has, and sometimes it can get a little bit confusing. one of the things is recovery prone. It takes kind of like how your heart rate is in your resting periods and the workouts that you've done, and it tells you like how well are you recovering. Kind of like what Garmin will say. Like Garmin will tell you like you need like 24 hours to recover from your workout if it's been a hard one, or maybe you need 48 hours, or if you run a marathon, maybe you need like 72 hours, something like that. So it's kind of like a similar analogous analysis to that, but you have to do some of the orthostatic tests, and I've never done those before because they're always like wake up in the morning and the first thing do X Y Z, and I'm like, my mornings are busy, I don't have time for that. So there's definitely lots of features always in a watch that you never really get to. Doku Tagrin says hi from Airdrie, Alberta, Canada. Awesome. How's it going, Jeff? Atharva Ugala says hi from I'll say hi to the baby. Yep, I'll say hi to the baby. My mom's here. Awesome. Joey Lucky says lacrosse ball under the arch and twist that hip helps him. Oh, awesome. That's cool. I usually like to put like there's a threshold, a piece of wood trim underneath the door, one of my doorways that I always like to stand on every time I walk through it, and that puts a little bit of pressure on the arch. It feels nice. Zach Waynetska is from Boise, and he says, some guy yelled at him for covering his face with his buff yesterday as I ran past him on the trail, saying those don't work. What do I think about that? I think that's fine. Someone's going to yell at you for whatever. People tell me, like, yeah, buffs don't work. I'm like, sure, but I'm not going to go out and buy some N95s or respirators. That other guy was on the trail as well, presumably if he saw you on the trail, and so what was that guy running in? There's lots of people that want to be mad at a lot of people. I am happy if people make an effort to stay far away from me first and foremost, and the masks are only really a secondary protection mechanism. Distance is the first protection mechanism. So like, I don't care if people tell me they don't work. I'm still going to run with something covering my face. It's not for me to protect myself from other people. It's more to protect myself from other people, so I don't inadvertently spread something to someone else. And also as a signal for people to tell them that I'm aware that we should be staying far away apart, so you should stay away from me. In my neighborhood, people are still like walking the dogs without masks on, saying hi to other people's dogs, chatting on the sidewalk. When people are running on the sidewalks, they're running really close as they're passing each other and stuff. So I mean, there's lots of things that don't work. Just wave at them, say hi, be safe, that kind of thing. That's all you can do. Bassy Bass says, Mike, I was wondering how you are choosing the music for my videos. I've been shazamming them quite often. I use Epidemic Sound. It's like a music licensing service. And so every once in a while, like every 2 weeks or so, I'll just go through and try and find like a couple of songs based on what I'm feeling like, right? So like if I'm doing, like I've been doing a lot of like night running or like before dawn running, so that kind of music gives me a different vibe. If I was doing a lot of tempo work, then I want stuff that's more like kind of like unnecessarily epic, like cinematic type of music. I like to be overly dramatic when I do those kinds of workouts, and so those are the things that I'm looking for. Or maybe I want some like trap hip hop kind of thing, and I'll just download a bunch of stuff at a time, kind of pre-selecting some things, and then as I'm making each video, I select of the things that I'll keep like a stash of music, and then I'll select a song from there. So that's kind of how I pick it. Lewis says, am I a Bulls fan and am I watching Last Dance? I'm actually not a Bulls fan. I'm not a native Chicagoan. I've lived here for 16 years now. So it's weird to not consider myself a Chicagoan, but it's not like I grew up here. I grew up on the East Coast, and I was a big Knicks fan growing up. So I grew up hating the Bulls, and I'm not watching The Last Dance. Leave TV says, I used to run on softer surfaces, but I have to run on the road now. I think a lot of people are doing that. Any tips on reducing impact? I've been struggling with some shin issues since the softer part trails closed down. I would, if you can, switch up to a more heavily cushioned shoe. I guess there's two schools of thought on it. One school of thought on it would be to go to a zero drop shoe with zero cushioning and let your body naturally absorb the impact for you. if you're in the minimalist running kind of category. But the other thing that I would think about is, if you're running in daily trainers, go to max cushion. If you're running in like tempo day, speed day shoes, go to a daily trainer. So like move up one level of cushion, and just give yourself a little bit of extra forgiveness until you can adjust to the the impact, and your shins can kind of catch up. Key for Vacation says Bears suck. Ooh, yeah, I mean that's okay. The Bears are like the only like team that I can kind of be like allowed to like, because I just mentioned I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in New Jersey watching the Knicks. John Starks was my favorite player growing up. When the Knicks had like Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, Xavier McDaniels, Doc Rivers, when Doc Rivers was a player, in the Pat Riley Knicks era, that was like my favorite teams to watch. And then, so like growing up, I hated the Bulls. And then I went to college in St. Louis during the home run race. And so like, I just went to so many, and I ended up getting a lot of, through some of them we knew, we ended up getting a lot of free tickets to Cardinals games when they weren't sold out, or if we could or we could get really cheap ones. So I went to a bunch of Cardinals games and I became a fan down there. Although I did grow up watching the Mets, back when they had Darryl Strawberry, Doc Gooden, Mookie Wilson, Gary Carter, really great players. But so I watched the Cardinals and Mark McGwire, and so I became a Cardinals fan because I lived in St. Louis for about 7 years. And the Cardinals main rivals. Hey, okay, I'll close the window. Sorry guys, I had to close the window. Baby's cold. Is that better? Okay. And so I not grew up, but like my college years, I was watching the Cardinals, and their main rival is the Cubs.
From that box.
And so you want some candy? There's another one over there. So candy over there.
No,
Not that one. I know there's one right here too, but you can't get anything in that box now. I'm using it. My camera's on top of there. So like the Bears are like the team that like I'm allowed to like, because the other football team that I enjoyed watching were the Rams, when they were the fastest show on turf. But since they left St. Louis, I feel no longer any allegiance to the Rams. And so the Bears have been like my default. But then it's been hard to watch like professional sports lately, just because the paradigm of the super wealthy, crazy, eccentric owners.
That's Zoe's box.
That's right.
Not my box.
I know. That's what I was trying to tell you. The crazy, eccentric owners taking advantage of players and cities. Like, it's just like a narrative that I don't particularly enjoy. I just finished listening to, I think it was Matthew Futterman's book on, I forgot the title of it, but I think it's called like Players or something like that, in terms of like how money has affected professional sports over the last several decades. And so like just only further puts a bad taste of professional team sports in my kind of consciousness. So the sports teams, like as the older I get, the less like professional sports that I watch. Johannes Richter says, "Hey Mike, what workouts are you doing on the stationary bike?" I'm not really doing any workouts. When I hop on there, it's only a matter of just getting on there for like an hour or an hour and a half, and just trying to get in like what the equivalent of like an easy run would be. All right, let's see right here real quick. We got a super chat come in. Nicodemo De Simone says, thank you for the super chat, Nicodemo. Says, thank you, Mike, for the content. Ciao. Well, thank you so much. I'm a big beneficiary of the content myself, because like seeing all you guys in the comments here and talking to you guys like on Instagram and here has been really a great way to keep connecting with people in a way that's much more direct than like YouTube comments, and so I've been really enjoying it for sure, and I'm glad to just have so many people coming to hang out. If Corman says, or Left Corman, or if Corman? If Corman says, do you give my wife advice when she buys shoes? I buy her running shoes and always get the looks wrong. I've kind of given up on trying to buy my wife shoes, because I've tried like 4 or 5 different pairs of shoes, and she never really likes any of them. She's tried getting fitted at running stores before too, and she never ends up liking them. She has of the last 6 or 7 pairs of shoes she's bought over the years, she's liked one of them. And so I thought maybe The women's Ultra Boost would be a good one for her because it'd be nice and soft, good for like walk jogging. She didn't like that. She does like Pegasus. She tends to like those. She's had a couple of different Brooks that haven't been that good for her, a couple of Sauconys, and so like she's hard to buy shoes for. I also just think that a lot. There's some things that my wife just doesn't want my help with, and so I think shoes is one of those. Bert says, "Thanks for the slightly longer video about the Polar Watch. I could squeeze some squats and lunges after his traditional stretching while watching Kofuzi." Yeah, if I keep making them longer, people is going to be super strong by the time all our quarantines are over. Yeah, I mean the way it works is kind of like. If I had more time, I would have made a shorter video. But I really wanted to get the video out today, and they had everything on embargo. But I didn't get the watch until like late Sunday night, and I didn't have enough time to run with it on Monday morning. So I didn't get to run with it until Tuesday, and then today was like the release day, and I kind of wanted to get my video as close to like their product launch announcement as possible. So like. If I had another hour or two, I could have made it shorter by 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, but it ended up being a little long. But Young asks, why is it important to have different shoes for everyday training, speed work, and tempo and race day shoes? It's not it's not necessary. I think it's important because different shoes do different things. It's kind of like, I think of it in two ways. Like if you like golf, it's kind of like golf clubs, or if you like cooking, it's like knives. You could have a paring knife, a chef's knife, a butcher knife, a cleaver, a bread knife. Do you need all of those knives? No. Do I really use my 6-inch boning knife all the time? Not really, especially now that I'm a vegetarian. I very rarely need my boning knife. Do I use my but it is a nice flexible blade, and it's very can get underneath things if you need to like fillet a fish, for example. A paring knife's good, so if you want to get in there and like core a strawberry, or take the top off, like a core out of a tomato, a very specific kind of blade for a specific kind of task. But then you have your general like 9-inch chef's knife, which is for everything. So like that's like the daily trainer of the bunch. A bread knife, most people don't really need a bread knife because they buy sliced bread. But if you make bread at home, a bread knife is perfect for slicing bread because it's a serrated edge and it gets through the crust really well without smushing the bread. And so that's kind of what it comes down to. For most people, as they're starting to buy out shoes, I say run with whatever you got. Once you're running for a while and have gotten into like a habit of it, then if you feel like it might help you become more motivated to continue running. Buy a daily trainer. Pick a brand. It doesn't matter. Just pick a brand that suits you, and buy a daily trainer shoe. And then if you run more, then you might want to either get a longer run shoe, depending on what your running goals are, or maybe a faster day shoe. And so most of the days you'll still wear that daily trainer, but every once in a while, a couple times a week, you wear the other one. And then after that, you might just start collecting. After that, you're going to just start collecting more shoes. Because it's fun to have them. Kind of like people like to have golf clubs or different kinds of golf balls, things like that. John Bohart says, Nike Turbo 2 is now $100. Do you think it's a price worth picking it up for everyday training? I think $100 is a really great price on that shoe. I remember really enjoying mine, so it could be a very good option for daily training. So $100 is a good price. Whether it's worth it, that's that's up to people, but it's a good shoe and that's a good price for it. Let's see. Walden H says, do I like the Garmin Forerunner or the new watch? The only Forerunner that I've ever tried was the Garmin Forerunner 45, which is like their entry-level watch. That was okay as an entry-level watch, but it had some severe limitations on it for kind of like the way that I train. But I think for a lot of people, it's a lot of watch that they need. I think probably more people will be better suited off with the Garmin 245. That is probably like all the watch that that a majority of runners need. Probably has everything you need in that watch and more, especially if you get like the music one. So that's a pretty compelling option. I do like this Grit X, this new one. I still got to kind of figure out some of the more other bells and whistles, but I really like being able to see the weather. I really like that. I don't know why I like it so much, but I do. And I like the sleep tracking, and I'm very used to now the different buttons and just everything's very intuitive for me. It makes sense. Stevie76 says, "Yo, what's going on?" He's at a WebEx work meeting too. Man, you're gonna be taxing out the bandwidth at home if you're watching like 2 live stream things at the same time. But I'm glad that you can tune into both and multitask in that way. Craig S says, "Hey, Kofuzi, message from the UK. He's getting into 5Ks and such, but I want to do those fast, and I trained as a sprinter in my teens. What would be a good shoe to be able to tackle both 5Ks and speed work?" I think the Turbo that was mentioned earlier would be a really good option. I think any of the shoes that I would put in like the faster day shoe category would be a good fit, especially if they're lighter. Let's see. I would certainly enjoy the Hyperion Tempo. I think the Hyperion Tempo is going to be really versatile as a hard work shoe, whether it's a short distance or a fast distance or a long distance. I think the SL20 is going to be a really great option for speed work and for road 5Ks. That's going to be beautiful. The Meta Racer is going to be a little bit on the expensive side, but I think that's going to be a fun shoe as well in that category. The Adios 5 will also be a really good option. I'm getting the Skechers Razor 3 soon. Just ordered a pair in like the hideous red color, but it was 50% off. So we'll see how that goes. I suspect that I'm going to enjoy that one. I've been running in the Speed Elite, but I just don't think that I really like that shoe. It's not right for me. But it might be something that it's good for racing like 10K, 5Ks, and that might be a good option for racing. But I'm not sure that I could really do a lot of training on it. I might be able to train on the track for it, but like running roads on it, it just beats me up quite a bit. So that's I just need a little bit more hyper burst in there, I think. So those are some options that are out there. The New Balance Fuel Cell Rebel, I think, would also be a good choice. The Evo Ride. So there's lots of great options for that kind of work. But the Rebel and the Evo Ride, I think, are better suited for longer speed work than they are for shorter intervals. Charles Lewis Anderton says, "Hello from Manchester. Just want to know if you mix in any other sports as part of my routine. If you're trying running on off days for try out running, and on his off days, cycle training, and been loving it so far." I normally don't. Normally, I just run 7 days a week, probably about 9 or 10 times. Okay. All right. I'll get them back out in just a minute. Okay. Sorry, I didn't know you wanted to still use them. But these days, I bought an exercise bike. I was worried that like we might not be able to run outside anymore, and so that's why I bought that. But I have been using it for a couple of hours per week, and I like it. How much benefit it has, I really can't tell yet. But I have been liking it. I'm hoping it at least gives me enough like a similar aerobic workout as say like an hour of biking. Hopefully that's equivalent to like an easy run. Ted and Ruth says, "What percentage of a week's total would you do for your long run?" I usually don't think too much about that. And I know like people say like Jack Daniel's book says like the long run shouldn't be more than 25 or 30% of your total weekly volume. And I feel like those are interesting, but like everyone's different. So like your long run, right now for me, like spending too much time outside is a little bit of a concern. It just worries me a bit. But normally I like to do 20 miles for my anywhere between like 16 and 20 miles for my weekend long run under like normal circumstances. And I usually put in about 70 or 80 miles per week. So if I'm doing a 20 miler on a 70-mile week, that's 2/7, or I don't know what the math is on that. If it's 20 out of 80, then it's like 25%. So I think that's about fine. It depends again if you're training for something, then it might depend on like what event you're training for and kind of like what your lifetime mileage is. So I think those are all variables that can go in there. But I think that like if you're in a week where it's like you're only running 30 miles a week and you run a 15 miler on the weekend, then I would really think about like what's making it so that you're only running 30 miles a week or like 15 miles a week for the rest of the week. That's kind of like something that I would be concerned about, because I think that over time you're going to be able to do that for a little while, and after a while it's going to start taking a toll on your aerobic fitness, and that 15-mile long run is going to start to become not as effective. Or if it is, it means that like you could get a lot better if you had more consistency during the rest of the week, and that 15-mile long run on Saturday could become a 20-miler, and you could have lots more other quality. Maybe time is an issue in the temporary time, but for the most part, I don't really have a firm number that I keep in mind. Um, Tom K says people should just mind their own business. Don't lecture me in this health crisis. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to lecture you. Chad Jordan says, hi Kofuzi, just got the Adidas SL20 for our fast run days. They're on sale for $55 on the Adidas site. What? That's crazy because that's a really good shoe. Why is it $55? That's insanity. Because I love them. They're a great long run fast shoe. So yeah, I would like them for fart. I like them for fartleks. For if your long run's gonna have some speed in it, at like mile repeats or like 2 mile or 3 mile repeats. You know, like 5K intervals. Yeah, I think that's great. Tempo runs. I love it. What bike? Robert Lapis asks, what bike are you using when you Zwift? Do I cycle a lot? I don't cycle a lot. Again, I'm probably only a couple hours per week. I use an exercise bike, like a spin cycle bike, and I have some Wahoo sensors on it, and it's kind of weird and janky of a setup, but it lets me ride my bike and play my video game, as my daughters like to put it. Cody Davis says, with the cancellation of the Berlin Marathon, do you think the rescheduled Boston Marathon will be canceled as well? I think so. That's my kind of gut feeling on that. Sean Ali says, do I like Emo's Pizza? Family from St. Louis. No. Emo's Pizza is weird. It's got some sort of like weird tanginess to the cheese. It's not tangy like goat cheese is tangy, because that would be delicious. Goat cheese like pizzas are fantastic, but Emo's Pizza is weird. I think that if you didn't grow up eating Emo's, you probably don't like Emo's. That's my thing. Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry if you love Emo's. It's okay. But my theory on pizza is the best pizza you can eat is the pizza you ate growing up. Luis Becerra says he's a Lakers fan. Knicks is just not like the 90s team anymore. Yeah, I haven't watched the Knicks since they lost to Houston in the playoffs. That would have been like maybe 1998 or 1999. And then after that, like basketball just got really boring for me. EV says, yo, fellow Chicago in here. He's like, yo, it's cool, right in the neighborhood. Got any favorite routes now that we're off the LFT or just winging it? It's been quite an adjustment. I really like running up and down Clark and Lincoln. So those are two streets that I like because they're wide. They're busy enough that like the lights are kind of like tuned for those roads. So they favor those roads. And there's bike lanes on those roads. But they're not incredibly busy. Like if you try running down Ashland, it's a real busy road, but there's also tons and tons of traffic, and you end up stopping a lot because there's so much traffic. Clybourne is another diagonal road that could fit into that category, but Clybourne, for whatever reason, maybe it's because it's close to the Chicago River or whatever river that is, it's always really windy on Clybourne, so I don't like it, and it always seems to be a bit dusty whenever I run there. So I like running kind of in loops using like Lincoln and Clark and Broadway. Like those are good roads to run on. I like running, and as far as east and west, they're all like okay. Irving tends to get very busy with traffic, so I end up stopping a lot if I'm on Irving. Dev Runner says, I saw your tweet about Berlin being canceled. Oh no, do you think this is the beginning of a trend? Heartbroken again. I think it is. I think it definitely is. Now, granted, Germany has been a little bit more conservative with their, or aggressive, I guess, if you could put it that way, with their efforts than the United States has been. So it's there could be variations on it, but like I wonder how much like Abbott will be able to like weigh in on like if a country is kind of willing to go and Abbott is like I don't think that's a great idea. You know that could pose like an interesting quandary there. So we'll see, but like I have a hard time envisioning any world majors going on. One of the things that like that I was thinking about today, because someone was asking me about races and stuff, was like, you know, what does the first like race after party look like? You know, like I envision like one of the first races that happens here is going to be a very small 5K or maybe a 10K with a very small number of entrants and very limited registration numbers. And like at the end, they'll like have like a stand where you pick up your own medal maybe, and then like go home. Like there's not going to be beers and like bananas and like snacks afterwards, right? So like that's going to be really weird. Um, so that'll be interesting to see. That'll be more interesting, I think, than the race, to see how like how those things are run. How does the expo run? Like how does bib pickup work in a social distancing world? You know, I don't know. It's going to be weird. Running with Barry says, "Loved your camera work, mate. Thank you so much." Jacob Rees says, if you run 3,000 kilometers a year, you might as well run in different kinds of shoes. Yeah, I think he's responding to like the earlier question about like, you know, why does a person need other kinds of shoes? Yeah, I mean, like, I like having different kinds of shoes for different kinds of terrain. And then another thing is, yeah, just to mix it up. Even if I ran like the exact same one kind of run every day, let's say I just ran one run around the neighborhood just for fitness, like 5 times a week, I could probably get by with one shoe for that. But I probably want to mix it up, unless like you're particular, like my wife, when she finds something that she likes, she usually buys 4 or 5 of them because that's what she likes. But you know, let's say, what if you're a trail runner and sometimes you run on the roads, sometimes you run on the trails, and you'll need different shoes for that too. Alessandro Rossi says, I'm kind of confused about low heart rate training right now. Are you happy with the results? I love running shoes. I collect them kind of. I'm very happy with the results right now. Cause like right now, like this morning I ran for this morning's run was kind of a disaster. I had to stop and walk for a little bit cause I had to go to the bathroom. But like the past couple of days I've been running, like several points, like heart rate beats below like my low heart rate max. So like normally like my limit for lower heart rate training is 145 beats per minute, and I've been running at like 140 or even lower, like the high 130s, and my paces are like 8:45 or so per mile, and I feel like that's it feels easy, and the pace is still not like feels doesn't feel like I'm running junk miles. So I feel like I'm getting decent work while still not taxing the aerobic system too hard, but getting a good aerobic workout. And so I'm very happy with the results. And then when I do get up to the point where I'm doing like tempo work and speed work, I feel really strong. So I'm very happy about the results. Brett Stevens says hello from Aurora, Colorado. Hello. Nicodemo De Simone says best ever shoes for me. My favorite shoes are the Pegasus 33 Shield. That's my sentimental favorite shoe. I still have them. I wear them like in the wintertime, sometimes to like walk the dog. So they're casual shoes that I just like. The rubber is like completely worn down. The cushion is bottomed out. The air zoom pocket is basically flat and deflated. But I can't get rid of those shoes. Nathan N is here from Hawaii. Iman Reshdi is here from Malaysia. What's going on? Let's see. Oscar Crow says, do I get enough sleep with my daily 4 a.m. run? Well, the 4 a.m. run, it's not 4 a.m. I try to get out by 4:30. I usually don't get up. I get out till 4:45 these days. And am I getting enough sleep? Probably not. I've been ending up falling asleep accidentally on on the couch for a nap every day for like 20 minutes or so. So I'm definitely not getting enough sleep. But it's not like I'm waking up that much earlier. I'm just shifting when I run. I used to run at 6:30 to like 7:30 or 8, but now I'm running from 4:30 to 6. And my hope is just to avoid more people. But normally I'm up at the same time anyway. It's just that I'm doing like I would get up early and like drink some coffee, maybe watch the news, do some YouTube video stuff. Now that stuff happens after my run. Running with Barry says, what camera do you use for my running vlog? I use the two main cameras for running footage are the Insta360 if I want 360 footage. That's pretty funny. She's watching cartoons and they're cracking her up. I use the Insta360 or I use the GoPro Hero 8. So those are my two that I use for the running parts. Drew Anderson asked, just moved to Bloomington Normal and hope to get to Chicago in the summer to run the lakefront. I hope you get to do that in the summer as well. It is beautiful. I love it. I really, really miss it right now, especially with like, we've had some really beautiful sunrises and I've been out there early. Like first light is like 5:30. If you like, first light is like 5:30 if you look based on like what the weather forecast will tell you. If you get out 15 minutes before first light, the sky, depending on the season, takes on different like purple and pink hues and other colors that I can't really like describe or label because I'm a little bit colorblind, but I see them all. I just can't tell you what color it is. but it's just absolutely beautiful, and I miss that so much. Smartarana 24 says hello from Long Island. Hey, what's going on? And let's see. What treadmill do I recommend, if any? I'm afraid I don't have really good recommendations for treadmills because I don't have one, and the only ones that I have access to are like gym treadmills, which are a little bit like on the industrial side because they're intended to be used a lot more. So I'm afraid I don't have good advice on that. I've been seeing a lot of people running on Instagram and like my Twitter feed on there's like Reebok makes one. I don't know if they make one. I think they just licensed the name, or Adidas licensed the Reebok name on one, and a lot of people seem to be pretty happy with that one, and it's pretty cheap. So I haven't tried it myself, but it's one that I've been seeing around a lot. Melavilla says no glasses today. Good luck. Yeah, I just never. I usually take them out after I get back from my run in the morning. I just forgot. Super Schmaltz says, "Oh no, emos is the best." But yeah, he grew up eating it. Yeah, see, so if you grew up eating it, that's the thing. If you came from somewhere else and tried emos, it's weird. It's like a weird tangy provolone, right? It's the provolone that makes it taste that way. Deadbuck73 says, "Yo, what's going on?" Max Hater says, "Since you have a stride, do I prefer training by power or heart rate?" Right now, I prefer training by heart rate because I'm using low heart rate training to build aerobic base. But I think that where I would have gone had the Boston training block continued, it stopped, with everything that happened. Had they continued, my last kind of like portion, mini block within that training plan would have been shorter intervals, like 800s and shorter. And for that, heart rate training is hard because your heart rate doesn't catch up or respond quick enough. And that's where power, I think, would have started training. And then I probably would have looked really carefully analytics wise. I don't use power for me in my normal training. I use a polarized approach. So most of my running doesn't really care if I'm using power or heart rate as long as I'm just doing it easy. But the power number becomes interesting after an entire training block or an entire season. Then it gives you predictions as to like what your running like critical power can be, or what your power number should be for running a race like a marathon based on all of your training. So the idea is you run with it for all of your runs. It gets an idea of how strong you are, how fit you are, and then it tells you like, all right, here's the power number that you should shoot for the entire time. And so if you're running uphill or in a hilly course like Boston, who cares about what your pace is? Just look for that power number. And that's going to be a little bit more helpful as a guide than say heart rate, because heart rate tends to spike a little bit, and is a less of a race like pace regulator. It's not as effective as power is. And so that's probably how the two ways that I would have really used the power number. So I like both is the answer I would give. But if you can only use one, I think the power meter can probably be used for both. Although for me, like having the heart rate monitor was really helpful for me to kind of reset and train my aerobic system. All right, there's a couple more questions in here, so I apologize for that, but I got to get going. The girls only have so much patience, and they've kind of given me more than they normally do. But I'm sensing some stirring going on, so I got to get to them. But thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in to the Wednesday afternoon live stream. I've really been enjoying these, and I hope you guys have been as well. Be safe wherever you guys are, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.